You think you're procrastinating because you're lazy? You're not. Your brain has a glitch, a real one, scan proven. It makes future you feel like a complete stranger. And here's the thing about strangers: you don't sacrifice for them. Put someone in a brain scanner, ask them to think about themselves, right now, today. A specific region lights up every time. It's the part of the brain that handles me. Now ask the same person to think about a stranger, someone they've never met, a different pattern, duller, distant. The me region barely responds. Completely normal. That's just how a brain tells you and not you apart. Now here's the part that should stop you. Ask that same person to think about themselves 10 years from now. The brain does not treat that like me. It treats it like the stranger. Let that sit for a second. The version of you who has to deal with tomorrow's deadline, next year's body, 10 years of skipped starts, your own brain looks at that person and files them under someone else's problem. Not because you're careless, because your brain was never built to feel loyalty to someone it doesn't recognize as you. This is a real finding, not a metaphor. Researchers studying something called future self-continuity have run this exact experiment. The pattern holds up again and again. The more distant the future self, the more the brain's response resembles thinking about a stranger instead of thinking about yourself. And once you see it, you can't unsee it in your own life. This isn't just a lab curiosity either. The size of that gap has been linked to real, measurable outcomes. People with a smaller gap report saving more money, exercising more consistently, and taking fewer risky shortcuts because future me registers as someone worth protecting. People with a bigger gap show the opposite pattern. More debt, more last-minute scrambling, more decisions that make sense in the moment, and no sense a week later. Hold that thought, because in a minute, we're going to find out something even stranger. That this gap isn't fixed, and closing it might be the single most effective thing you never tried. Let's go deeper into what that gap actually costs you. Every time you put something off, you're not weighing me today against me tomorrow. You're weighing yourself against a stranger. And humans are extremely good at making strangers wait. Think about how differently you treat a promise made to a friend versus a promise made to future me. You show up for the friend. Future you gets no such loyalty. Future you gets whatever's left over after everything else gets handled first. That's not a character flaw. That's a design flaw. And here's the part nobody talks about. The people whose brains show the smallest gap, the ones whose me region stays lit up even picturing themselves a decade out, consistently make different choices. They save more, they finish more, they forgive their future selves in advance, which somehow makes it easier to show up for them. Not because they have more willpower, because their brain isn't asking them to be generous to a stranger, it's asking them to take care of themselves. Here's the part that changes everything. Researchers tested whether this gap could be closed on purpose. In one study, people were shown a digitally aged image of their own face. And the amount of money they chose to set aside for the future jumped. Not because they suddenly got more disciplined, because for one moment, future them stopped being a stranger and started being someone they recognized. The gap isn't permanent, it's just unexamined. This shows up outside the lab too. Some retirement savings programs show people an aged version of their own face before asking how much to save. The Letters to Your Future Self programs work on the exact same principle. Not motivation, recognition. You can't out-discipline a brain that doesn't believe the recipient exists. You can only introduce them. So, what do you actually do with a brain that treats your own future like someone else's problem? You don't fight it with more willpower. Willpower was never the missing ingredient. You've had enough of it to finish plenty of things you cared about. What's been missing is recognition. Try this. Before you avoid the thing you're avoiding, picture the specific person who has to deal with the consequence. An actual person in an actual room. Some people picture their own face. Some people picture the exact chair they'll be sitting in. Give them a face. Yours, just older. Give them a moment. Tuesday, 9 p.m., staring at the thing you didn't do today. That person is not a stranger. That person is you, with worse timing. Notice something else while we're here. The same brain that files future you under stranger is remarkably generous toward right now you. Every act of avoidance gets approved by a judge who only ever hears one side of the case. Future you never gets a lawyer. Future you just gets the bill. And the version of you watching this, telling yourself this is somehow productive because it's educational. That's worth naming too. Not as a criticism, as information. The same brain that files future you under stranger will happily file watching one more video under progress because it feels close and safe and the actual task feels far away. You're allowed to notice that without punishing yourself for it. Punishing yourself just gives the judge another reason to rule against future you again tomorrow. That's the whole trick, actually. Not more discipline, recognition. The gap between you and your future self was never a character flaw you were born with. It's a rendering error. A brain doing its best with limited information, treating an unfamiliar face as someone else's business. You get to fix the rendering. You get to look at the person 10 years out and go, oh, that's me. That's always been me. Not someone else's problem. Yours. Still, the deadline isn't the stranger. You were.